We're having a sale!
Welcome again, intrepid travelers, the Green Scorpion here, offering another respite from your perilous journey. And do I have some wares for you today? I wanted to tackle this topic for a while now, and though I'm certainly not the first to do so, I want to put my 2 cents in the tip jar and talk about the unsung heroes of our virtual adventures, the Shopkeepers. Shopping is an important mechanic in any game it appears in. In a way, it's the simplest implementation of player choice. Rather than give you every tool and power-up at assigned points, the game, like an instructive parent, allows you some currency and lets you decide how to spend it. This can all be accomplished with a basic menu screen, but some games go the extra mile by writing a lovable character behind the counter. With the right personality, these vendors can hit 2 birds with 1 stone, not only selling us items but building on the game's setting, letting us unwind after a harrowing dungeon, or even participating in the main story. Why defer to plain text boxes when you can engage more with the game's world? Just a few rules. Firstly, it needs to be a character who sells items to the player. Even if they are a merchant in the story, if they don't function as one to you, the player, we can't do business today. Unfortunately, that eliminates Torneko Taloon from Dragon Quest, Tressa from Octopath Traveler, and several protagonists from the merchant RPG subgenres, but I need some basis to compare prices here. Secondly, I'm judging mostly on character and how much of an impact they leave, though if the shop does something mechanically to really improve the game, I'll keep that in mind too. As usual, this will be one per franchise and only games I've played, so comment below if there's a seller I missed. Maybe offer me a business card. And with that, I'm ready for a shopping spree. Would one of you charming entrepreneurs like to start us off? Okay, maybe not you.
Now, hurry and choose something. Or get out.
Good enough. This is my top 10 video game shopkeepers. Open for business. Talking about Undertale again. You mad, bro? Not that this game needs any more praise from a nerd like me, but I'm glad it landed at number 10. Its use of shops perfectly demonstrates what this list is all about. Without its characters, Undertale would be perfectly unremarkable, but Toby Fox takes every opportunity to inject color and character into the underground, the shops being some of the best examples. Each town has a unique shopkeeper, complete with the game's most detailed portraits and branching dialogue trees that give you a better sense of the world around you. I'm a big fan of Gerson, who during the genocide run realizes that he's perfectly safe from you so long as he's behind the shop screen. A clever example of meta-humor in an otherwise grim situation. And of course there's Temmie in all of her bizarre glory. But for my money, I'm going for the last one you encounter, the world-weary 19-year-old Burgerpants. No, that's not his real name, but his employers don't really respect him too much. Burgerpants works at the Metaton brand burger emporium, home of the most expensive and potent healing items in the game. And if you've ever worked in the service industry to pay your bills, this hits way too close to home. He avoids talking with you, afraid of his manager yelling at him, but if you pester him enough, he finally explodes into conversation, and my god, what are these faces? They put way too much detail into this guy, visually and in dialogue. There's a whole subquest where you can set him up to hang out with the 2 girls in the alley, and it accomplishes absolutely nothing in gameplay, only cements how manic and hopeless this guy is. It does make the game world feel a little more alive, which I'd say is the game's real goal, to make a real game world worth saving. He also has like 3 of my favorite quotes in the game. Seriously, all he ever wanted was to be an actor. He's not the most pleasant guy you'll ever meet, but considering his salary, he really can't afford to be. Take it from me, Burgerpants deserves at least a little respect. But maybe you've had enough of all the flashy advertising and corporate oppression. Say no more, head on over to Stardew Valley. A Harvest Moon-inspired farming simulator, Stardew Valley is your secluded escape from modern life. Or at least it would be, but oh crap, modern life followed us here. You make your new home only to find that your old employers, Joja, have set up a big ugly superstore that's having some depressing economic effects on the town. And it's run by this creep, Morris. No, Morris is not our number 9, even if he does sell us seeds at a reduced price. I'd rather support the mom and pop shop, owned by Pelican Town's own Pierre. Granted, Pierre isn't exactly the most likable guy in town, especially when compared to your 12 potential love interests. Building a relationship with him is tough enough. He rarely leaves his store, so at least he's a hard worker, and the only gift he really loves from you is fried calamari. I don't exactly have that lying around, you pretentious git. Even the hard events with him are a little underwhelming, mostly about how he fails to understand his daughter Abigail. And of course, there's his secret stash. We never find out what it is, but he does not want his wife to know about it. So yeah, kind of a frustrating guy to deal with, but compared to the alternative, Morris is the real dick. He'll even hand out 50% off coupons to JojaMart right in Pierre's store, just to drive away his customers. Screw this guy! It all pays off though in the game's most important side quest, the Old Community Center. You can either restore the town landmark, a tough task that requires you to master pretty much every aspect of the game, or you can buy a Joja membership and allow Morris to turn this beloved cabin into a Joja warehouse. Giving you this choice reinforces the game's message about big business, counting on you to pick what's best for the town. Even if it's technically easier to shop and unlock features through Joja, it's far less rewarding than supporting a small business and making the townsfolk happy. Speaking of rewarding, if you fix the community center, Morris storms in to try to ruin things, and you get another choice. Keep things civil, and Pierre will stand up and give a stirring speech, inspiring the town to band together and boycott Joja. Or alternatively, watch Pierre punch Morris through the freaking roof. I know which option I'm picking. This in turn actually makes me glad that Pierre's a little unlikable. It makes me like the lesser of the two jerks. And as Stardew Valley shows us, it's not all about prices or profit, it's about people. Even if those people don't like the crops I bring them! Seriously, Pierre, just be my friend already! This one's just funny. I've talked about the cult classic Brütal legend, where a roadie named Eddie Riggs is transported to a fantasy world of heavy metal. The landscapes look like album covers, the different factions represent different subgenres of music, and a guitar, in the right hands, doubles as a battle axe. Augmenting all of this is the game's upgrade system. Travel deep into the molten bowels of the Motor Forge, and you'll meet the all-powerful Guardian of Metal.
Well, it's about fucking time!
And he's freaking Ozzy Osbourne. They never call him Ozzy, but he's modeled after and fully voiced by the Prince of Darkness himself. Oh, and his robes are based on Black Sabbath. I don't know if this is supposed to be hilarious or badass, it might just be both. The Guardian will facilitate upgrades to Eddie's main tools, the Separator, the Clementine, and even his vehicle. It's a basic shop format, though it's treated more like you're making offerings to a dark god, bringing fire tributes and erecting effigies to your allies. The Guardian might just be the most powerful entity you meet in this game. He could defeat Diviculus himself pretty easily, but as he says,
I'm not a fighter, I'm more of a keeper of timeless secrets, that's all.
I love how passionate he is about the car and the history of the world he lives in, and how he uses the power of smash cuts to teleport around Eddie. But what really puts him on here is the meta joke of his casting, and how it helps contextualize this entire game. Sure, Brütal Legend is basically a big tribute to metal, but how? Well, compare this guy to Eddie. We joke about how Eddie Riggs is basically just Jack Black playing Jack Black. And you know what? I think that's the best way to interpret this game. Jack Black made his mark in the world of metal. He's a huge fan, but he's not really the first guy you think of when you hear heavy metal. In the same way, Eddie is an outsider to this land, a stranger, but his love of the craft allows him to read ancient scripture and commune with the metal gods while still taking the piss out of the more serious threats here. The Guardian is the same way. He's Ozzy in everything but name, and here he is, an established, influential ancient being, though he's still not as old as the world itself, and he stays on the sidelines, retired, and leaving metal's future to the next generation. You'd think this would be a quick cash grab for Ozzy, but he's clearly having a lot of fun in this role.
The Guardian of Metal welcomes you.
He has multiple lines of dialogue for every item in his shop, not to mention his greetings get funnier and funnier the more you visit him.
The Guardian of Metal welcomes you again.
Same as Burgerpants, they took this simple game mechanic, an upgrade shop, and used him to reinforce the game's premise, in this case, an ode to face-melting music. He may be a demigod, but he's also that down-to-earth friend you'll want to visit again,
You have interrupted the Guardian of Metal's nap.
and again.
the Guardian of Metal's getting a little bit tired of all this.
And again.
What is it?
Could I have a refund, please? This gun doesn't seem to work.
I don't know. Looks like it works to me.
Pandora is not a place you go to coast by in life. If you're going to make it on this bloodthirsty planet, you need to be ambitious, proactive, and a hardened survivor. Turns out that this is true in all practices, whether you're a hitman or a businessman. Marcus Kincaid is an extremely important character to the Borderlands mythos. In fact, he's the one driving the bus at the beginning of the first game. He narrates most of the darn thing. And he's the best guy around if you want to buy guns. In fact, he's the only guy around. He literally destroyed all of his competition. Every shop, every vending machine, every bullet on this whole damn rock is the legal tender of Marcus, and he's ready to do business. Of course, this means he's selling to your enemies, not just you, but that's something you're just gonna have to accept if you're ever gonna be friends with this guy. But he's not without a heart. He'll thank you for fighting off the Imperial Atlas, and he'll even give you a freebie once in a while if your interests align with his. There's definitely something to be said here on the interplay of war and business. Pandora is a destabilized hellscape of constant violence, and the few on top like Handsome Jack profit by selling weapons to keep it going. Like Jack, Marcus is kind of a warlord. But we look more favorably on Marcus because he actually gets into the thick of it, while Jack is up in his ivory tower, taking without giving back. Marcus forged relationships with the past Vault Hunters, he's been married to Mad Moxie, and he has an actual passion for business itself, not just the money that makes it. This guy loves guns so much, he'll take being shot at as an opportunity to advertise a deadlier weapon. Is his friendship worth that much? Not as much as that shiny assault rifle you've been wanting. But long after you've been crushed by the Cromerax for the 10th time, Marcus Kincaid will still be there. You got a problem with that? Then you can take your business elsewhere. Oh wait, you can't! Wow, monopolies are dangerous.
What are you buying?
Admit it, you were waiting to hear those lovely words. We all know that Resident Evil 4 was a huge departure from series tradition, and depending on your preference towards horror and tank controls, we might agree that it's one of the best Resi games out there. How did Capcom make a game so good yet so rebelliously different from the series? I'd argue that it all starts with the merchant. After a brilliantly tense zombie survival sequence in the village, Leon meets this odd vagabond outside of a wood cottage and... well, what's his deal? We never really find out. He's clearly a Ganado, but unlike every other parasite vessel, he means you no harm. In fact, he's quite happy to see you. I thought Sadler was using that staff thing to bend all Ganados to his will, but no, the merchant's just trying to turn a profit. And why does he have a Cockney accent?
Got some rare things on sale, stranger.
He somehow gets to every location before you do, which I would normally dismiss as the game just being gamey, but the merchant does have mortal limitations. Mainly, you can kill him. And if you're on a higher difficulty, he stays dead. Forever. Not something I recommend because his shop is a crucial resource, giving Leon a use for those treasures and pesetas that he's been collecting. This fuels your need to search every nook and cranny, not just for those valuable bullets and herbs, but so you can afford to upgrade your weapons. It's this freedom to build your armory the way you see fit that may be antithetical to survival horror conventions, but deeply satisfying regardless. I still felt plenty scared on my first playthrough, but not so much because of the scary enemies, except those damn regenerators, screw those guys. It was the anxiety of conserving my bullets throughout a long gauntlet of monsters, so anytime you see that blue torch and hear that hacking chuckle, oh, this is my best friend right here. It's funny, most of these shopkeepers are there to make the world more believable. But Murchie is the opposite. He makes sense only in gameplay and serves to keep you from taking the game too seriously. He's goofy, he's helpful, he's just a little bit intimidating, and he's a constant reminder that, hey, you're still playing a video game. It makes the merchants a central detail to everything that makes Resident Evil 4 a masterpiece.
Ah, an awesome choice, stranger.
This one right here is gonna be tough. Zelda games always excel in featuring memorable, off-the-wall NPCs, so how do I pick just one of these shopkeepers? This alone could fill its own top 10. In fact, Top 10 Legend of Zelda Shopkeepers! Number 10, the man from the trading post, who I'm pretty sure is also running the curiosity shop but wearing sunglasses. You never see them at the same time. Number 9, Zanari, always wearing that parka even in subtropical Windfall Island. Number 8, Kilton the monster parts merchant. Do you like monsters? Well, he likes them more! Number 7, Tingle, not gonna lie, a flying balloon man who sells maps is a pretty cute idea, but it comes with a lot of extra baggage, and by Wind Waker, he's a real heel. Number 6, Rupin, he really wants your business and will provide service with a forced, painful smile, but he doesn't crack the top 5. Number 5, the Koholint Island Merchant, a creepy old man that you can actually steal from. Just don't think about going back or he will strike you with lightning. Number 4, the Happy Mask Salesman. What started as a silly little side quest returned as a plot-critical character who looks ready to snap at any moment. Seriously, this guy is unsettling, but not as unsettling as Number 3, Mallow. Is he a baby? Well, he survived a kidnapping by Bulbins, opened a charity, and ended up owning the most popular boutique in Hyrule. This kid knows his branding. Number 2, Ravio. The item rental system is one of the best things about A Link Between Worlds. It almost excuses him for stealing your house. But for number 1, or in this case number 5, it has to be Beedle. I love this guy. Every time I walk through that door and hear that, "Oh!" it brightens my day. He became a series staple, and there's something to love in every major appearance. In Wind Waker, he sets up floating boat shops and offers an enticing loyalty program to returning customers. In Skyward Sword, he kicks it up a notch with a hot air balloon powered by Beedle. Though he gets reasonably annoyed if you're just window shopping. He'll trapdoor you if you leave empty-handed. And in Breath of the Wild, he's just hoofing it. You'll find him eventually if you stick to the roads or visit any of Hyrule's homie stables. And if you have a Beedle to sell him, it just makes his day. It made me wonder why he doesn't just set up shop in a town or something, but then I realized that, a lot like the hero of Time, he's not one to just settle down. He's an adventurer like you, but instead of slaying monsters, he's cutting prices. It's oddly inspiring, and if it makes my adventure that much easier, then I can't help but be thankful. You're the best, Beedle.
Thank you!
It breaks my heart, but I can't include Merlinus from Fire Emblem 7. Sure, he's a merchant by trade, but in-game he never actually sells you anything. I gotta follow my rules on this one. I did consider the Caravan Troop from the Tellius saga, who are fairly fleshed out and even feature in the game's base conversations. But there's a more omnipresent purveyor in the series, so let's talk about Anna. Fire Emblem stories exist on 2 levels. There's the level of plot that pertains to each game's narrative, the good stuff, and then there's the meta story they use to connect all of the games and justify mechanics, the dumb stuff. Anna lives on the first level of storytelling, but gets really interesting when you consider the second. Something of a series mascot, she shows up in nearly every game in the series. She's always the face you see when taking tutorials or suspending your game data, but she's more importantly keeper of the secret shop, which can be found in a number of places, hidden away in perilous caves or enemy strongholds. I can't imagine she gets much traffic there, especially since you need a membership card just to get in, but she makes up for it by selling rare and expensive treasures, all of the best healing staffs, class promotion items, the works. But how does she run a shop in all of these different towns, continents, and even worlds apart? Awakening answers that with Anna guarding the Dragon's Gate and revealing that it's not just one Anna you've been dealing with, but a multitude of identical Annas from throughout the cosmos. It's a Nurse Joy thing. Every town has an Anna, and it only gets weirder the more you dig into it. Apparently all Anna's names are pronounced slightly differently, and they can all recognize each other on sight, and there's a code never to interfere in another Anna's jurisdiction. The more recent games have focused on her as a playable character, though it's telling that she's always some derivative of a thief. Fire Emblem Heroes is her biggest role yet, where she's General of the Order of Heroes and a guiding force for Alphonse and Sharina. She hasn't lost her penchant for gold though. During special events, she's usually scheming on how to exploit a holiday or festival for wealth. Not unlike intelligent systems themselves, am I right? She's even gotten swindled by Annas from other dimensions. Fire Emblem is supposed to be fairly serious, isn't it? Why is this canon? I honestly don't think that Fire Emblem games need to be interconnected to make a good franchise. They all stand out on their own. But with likable, consistent characterization, it's a pleasant assurance to see Anna anytime you're taking your strategic ventures online. She trades not just in gear and gold, but in friendships and experiences, with a love of combat and interesting conversation. When you look at it that way, I can't think of a better person to lead the Order of Heroes.
今日も大量大量一攫千金残念でした待ってほらこっち待ちなさい
The most recent characters on this list, number 3 goes to Brok and Sindri from the new God of War. Well, most recent in terms of video game appearance, but like everything else in this game, these dwarven brothers come from Norse mythology, making them the oldest shopkeepers here. Yeah, even older than Ozzy. As with all of these situations, even though they derive from mythology, I'm counting them as video game characters because God of War makes new iterations of them, using myth as backstory and moving from there. In Norse myth, Brok, sometimes spelled with an unnecessary Norse R, and Sindri, often called Eidri, were the great forgers who won a bet with Loki by crafting a multiplying ring, a giant metal boar, and most notably, Thor's famous hammer, Mjolnir. The game informs us that the brothers had a falling out over the forging of Mjolnir, since Thor's done some pretty rotten stuff with it. Kratos first meets Brok when the dwarf recognizes his axe, Leviathan, which the brothers also originally crafted for the frost giant Laufey. If you so choose, Brok will enhance it with his metalworking expertise, but he can only do so much. Later down the line, you meet Sindri, whose magical prowess can enhance the axe in a variety of ways. Brok and Sindri are a total odd couple. Brok's gruff and blunt, likes to work with his hands, and Sindri is refined, sophisticated, and nearly faints when seeing the blood on your weapons. It's an axe, man. What did you think it was being used for? The best part is, you can repeatedly get Leviathan leveled up for free. Tell one brother how well the other did at fixing it, and he'll start working just to show how much better he'll do it. You still need to provide the materials, but still, it's a charming way to save some cash. With enough work, you can get the brothers to put aside their differences and combine their talents to make Leviathan the best axe ever. It's a simple storyline, but as a quest, it's really satisfying getting them together when the results are so powerfully reflected in your attacks. They pour their hearts and souls into their work, and Leviathan reflects their camaraderie. It's vicious and heavy-handed, but also elegant and calculated, like the brothers themselves. It's an art to them, and they love what they do, even if they don't always love what it's used for. We need to talk about Tom Nook. Yeah, I was there when the first Animal Crossing came out for the GameCube. I too was forced by this tyrannical Tanuki into buying a ramshackle house, enslaved to work at his store, trapped in exorbitant debt, and when I did finally pay off my house, he would strong-arm me into buying a house upgrade, dooming me to pay an even larger sum again and again. That greedy, conniving vermin is everything wrong with capitalism. At least, that's the hot take of a teenager trying to sound clever. When you get to be a little older and wiser, with some real-life experience under your belt, you realize that Tom Nook gets a bad rap. And by that I mean he's extremely reasonable. You show up to this town, practically penniless, and he just hands you a house for a modest price. It's a fixer-upper, but have any of you actually shopped for an apartment? I would kill for these prices. You know how tough the job market is? I'm thankful to work in his store, which is basically just a tutorial. Sure, the upgrades are expensive, but have you ever heard of a 0% interest loan? No money down? No mortgage? This guy is a saint! It's no wonder they made him a tanuki, which symbolizes wealth and prosperity. Seeing as you sell all of your fish and fossils to him in the early games, he's literally the source of all of your money. Not to mention all of the good his shop has done over the years. He's always cracking dad jokes and finding ways to promote good deals. I love seeing his shop grow throughout the game, from a little wood panel trading post, to a mini-mart, to a luxury emporium. I'm glad you're doing well, Tom. Even series director Aya Kyogoku says that he's just misunderstood. He's a businessman, but he's trying to watch out for you. He's not just gonna hand things to you, he wants you to understand the value of $1, or a bell in this case, but he's always got your back. Nowadays he's left the business to his sons Timmy and Tommy, but old Tom's not retired just yet. He's just focusing on the real estate business so he can make the town as happy as possible. You can hate Crazy Red all you want. You can despise Lyle for all I know. But I do not see how you can hate this caring, lovable, hardworking gentleman. He is a credit to the village. I don't want to make a habit of adding onto my already overwritten videos, but this is such an interesting counterexample that I absolutely need to give it an honorable mention.
Welcome to the Circus of Values!
Oh, I do not like the sound of that. Except I kind of do. The purpose of this list was to show how putting a character behind the shop menu can provide some of the game's best interactions. But what if your game's going for a feeling of isolation? Most of the time, you just don't implement a shop. Can you imagine having a store in Metroid Prime? Or Silent Hill? And as I mentioned earlier, adding a shop was a big part of what changed Resident Evil. But if you want to have things a player can buy, like in Bioshock where you're given the freedom to outfit your character, but the only people you ever see are murderers and horrific orphans, yeah, a creepy clown vending machine works just fine. Or you can get ammo from this racially insensitive bandito stand. I can totally believe Rapture would have these. Not just the racism, but the shotgun shells that any 10-year-old could easily access with his lunch money. You get the sense that there was society here at one point, someone had to install these, but now this laughing box of health items is all that remains. You can even hack into it to reduce the prices if you're good enough, though after playing that minigame for the 100th time, you might just prefer full price. Kudos to Bioshock for providing us a way to spend our cash, while still making us feel so very, very alone. Long ago, there was an angel whose strength rivaled all others, known only as the Infinite One. He was tasked with creating the world as we know it, from the glittering expanse of Paradiso to the hellish dimension of Inferno. He was an unparalleled craftsman of space, but when his power became too great, he was cast down from heaven into the darkest reaches of his own creation. To this day, he waits, his strength slowly growing. And he owns a bar. It says a lot about Bayonetta that the game's shopkeeper has the kind of heavy backstory normally reserved for primary villains, but here, no, he's just the bartender. That's selling it short, of course. Rodin is one of Bayonetta's most dependable allies, but at first he keeps an arm's length from the main story, and a lot about him is shrouded in mystery or buried in collectible lore books. He and Bayo have a deal going. Their relationship is one of give and take, but he also likes her sass enough to do her a favor every now and then. As you tear through the forces of Paradiso, you gather halos that can be exchanged at Rodin's nightclub, the Gates of Hell, for guns, relics, moves, healing items, costumes, anything an Umber Witch could ever hope for. To clarify, his club isn't the actual Gates of Hell, it's just part of the motif. Rodin gets his name from French artist Auguste Rodin, whose most famous work is the sculpture, the Gates of Hell, inspired by Dante's Inferno. Just in case you were wondering why his name isn't pronounced Rodin. It's a fitting namesake because Rodin's most unique talents lie not in sales, but in creation. Not only did he sculpt much of the known universe, he can also make weapons in the craziest way possible. If you bring him a vinyl of an angelic hymn, he'll use it to lure out a demon, beat the crap out of it, and somehow reshape it into a sword or a whip. What a badass! It's always a treat when he shows up in the story. Limited in the first game, but in the second we even get to fight alongside him and get just a taste of how strong he really is. I mean, he is basically Lucifer. Except at one point he refers to the devil as something that exists in this world, so I don't know how that works. But, you want to see how strong he really is? Well, those halos you've been spending aren't just worth their weight in gold. If he gets enough, he can regain his original power and treat you to a crazy bonus boss fight, one in each game actually. Think Jubileus with more swagger. And you know how Bayonetta can pair with a demon to conjure its giant fists? Rodin just conjures his own fists. Don't think about it too hard. This all might seem removed from his duties as a shopkeeper, but that's just what makes him so cool. All this drama and gravitas, and he's just here chilling behind the counter. How much of his involvement you want depends on how far you're willing to buy in. Even if you don't go for the bonus boss, he's a cool guy to have around. He contributes to the story in a way most shopkeepers don't. Oh yeah, and the stuff he sells is really useful. And he does stuff like this.
Damn, woman. I thought I told you to chill.
He's so cool! So now that you've heard my pitch, who are your MVP video game vendors? I realize when writing this that your favorites will probably be from your favorite franchises, because when done right, these characters not only have sound mechanics that improve gameplay, they fill out the world, lend to the tone, and reinforce what makes the game so good in the first place. This guy will sell you claws made out of a blood god and casually dresses as Santa around the holidays. Rodin embodies everything that makes Bayonetta a great game. I'm the Green Scorpion, and it's been a pleasure doing business with you. Come back soon!
Beautiful.